Before they had kings, the Israelites were under the leadership of powerful judges such as Samson, Gideon, Deborah, and Jephthah. During Samson's time as judge, God delivered the Israelites to the Philistines for 40 years because they had done evil in the eyes of the Lord. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to a woman, the wife of a man named Manoah from Zorah. She was barren and had no children. The angel of the Lord said to her, "Indeed, now you are barren and have borne no children, but you shall conceive and bear a son." The woman was also warned not to let the son drink wine or eat anything unclean. The angel told her that no razor was to touch his head, for he was to be a Nazirite to God from the womb. His mission would be to deliver Israel from the hand of the Philistines. The woman shared the news with her husband, Manoah. Manoah then prayed to God, asking that the angel appear again to instruct them on what they were to do for the child who was to be born. The Lord answered Manoah's prayer, and the angel appeared once again to the woman while she was sitting in the field. She quickly ran to her husband and told him that the angel who had appeared to her before had visited again, and they both went to him. Manoah asked the angel how the boy should live and what his work would be. The angel said the woman was to avoid wine and anything unclean. Manoah asked the angel to stay so they could prepare a young goat for him, but the angel asked that they offer it to the Lord as a burnt sacrifice instead. Manoah offered a young goat and grain on a rock, and as they watched, a flame from the altar went toward heaven with the angel ascending in the flame of the altar. On seeing this, they fell on their faces to the ground. Manoah thought they were going to die, for he believed they had seen God. The woman bore a son and named him Samson. He grew, and the Lord blessed him, with the Spirit of the Lord moving upon him. While Samson was in Timnah, he saw a Philistine woman. He told his parents about her and asked them to get her for him as his wife. His parents were against the idea and asked him, "Is there no woman among the daughters of your brethren or among all my people that you must go and get a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines?" However, Samson insisted that he wanted the woman because she pleased him. Manoah and his wife did not know that this was from the Lord, who wanted an opportunity to move against the Philistines, who had dominion over Israel. So Samson and his parents went to Timnah, and a young lion came roaring against him. The Spirit of the Lord came strongly upon him, and he tore the lion apart as easily as he would have torn a young goat. Afterward, he talked to the Timnite woman, and she pleased him. After some time, he went back to get her, and he saw the carcass of the lion. It was swarming with bees, and there was honey in it. He took some and went on his way, eating it as he went. At a feast Samson held to celebrate his success, he gave the young men there a riddle. He offered 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing as a reward to them if they could solve this riddle. Out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. They had to solve the riddle within the 7 days of the feast, and if they could not, they would have to give him 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothing. For 3 days they could not solve the riddle, and on the 7th day they approached his wife and threatened to burn her father's house if she did not find the answer to the riddle from her husband. Samson's wife begged him to explain the riddle, but he was reluctant, saying that not even his parents knew the riddle. Eventually, he told her the answer, and she shared it with the Philistine men. On the 7th day, they told Samson the answer to the riddle. "What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion?" they said. Then the Spirit of the Lord came strongly upon Samson, and he went to Ashkelon, where he killed 30 men, took their clothing, and gave it to those who had solved the riddle. He was angry and went back to his father's house, and his wife was given to his best man by her father. Later, during the wheat harvest, he took a young goat to visit his wife, but found that she had been given to another man. Her father offered to give him her younger sister, but in his anger, he caught 300 foxes, tied torches to their tails, and let them loose into the fields of the Philistines. When the Philistines learned he had done this because of his Timnite wife, they burned her and her father. For this reason, Samson sought revenge, and he attacked them with a great slaughter before retreating to the cleft of the rock of Etam. Then the Philistines went to Judah, seeking to arrest Samson and take their revenge against him. 3,000 men of Judah went to Etam, where Samson was staying, and he agreed to be tied with 2 new ropes and delivered to the Philistines. When the Philistines saw him, they came shouting against him, but the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson, and he tore the ropes on his arms as if they were flax burned with fire. Then he found a fresh jawbone of a donkey and killed 1,000 men with it. Now Samson was very thirsty, and he cried out to the Lord, thinking he was going to die. But the Lord split a hollow place in Lehi, and water came out, and he drank it. Samson called the place En-Hakkore. Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a harlot and went in with her. The people of Gaza learned Samson was there and surrounded the place so they might kill him in the morning. However, he woke up at midnight, tore off the gates of the city and their gateposts, and carried them on his shoulders to the top of the hill facing Hebron. Later, Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah from the valley of Sorek. The Philistines approached her and asked her to find out the source of his great strength in exchange for 1,100 pieces of silver, and Delilah agreed. Delilah then asked Samson where the source of his strength lay. Samson told her that if they bound him with 7 fresh bowstrings that had not yet been dried, he would be weak, just like any other man. The lords of the Philistines gave Delilah 7 fresh bowstrings, and she tied Samson with them. Men were lying in wait when she said to him that the Philistines were upon him. However, he broke the bowstrings like a strand of yarn when it touches fire. She then asked him again what the source of his strength was, and Samson said that if he were bound with new ropes that had never been used, then he would be just like any other man. But when Delilah tied him with new ropes, he broke them like thread. Samson then told her that if she wove his locks into the web of the loom, he would be weak. But when she told him the Philistines were coming, he pulled out the batten and the web from the loom. Delilah pestered him every day to find out the source of his strength, and he was vexed. He then told her no razor had ever touched his head, for he was a Nazirite to God from his mother's womb. Therefore, if his hair was cut, he would be weak and be like any other man. She knew he had spoken the truth and called the lords of the Philistines who brought the money they had promised her. Delilah lulled Samson to sleep on her lap, and she called a man to cut off his 7 locks of hair, and his strength left him. When she told him the Philistines were upon him, he thought he would free himself, but the Spirit of the Lord had left him. The Philistines captured him, blinded him, and took him to Gaza. He was bound with bronze fetters and became a grinder in the prison. Over time, the hair on his head grew. One day, when the lords of the Philistines were offering a sacrifice to Dagon, their god, they said that their god had delivered their enemy Samson into their hands. They decided to call for Samson to come and entertain them. About 3,000 men and women were there to watch Samson as he performed. Samson called out to God, asking him to strengthen him one more time so that he might take revenge for his 2 eyes. He then held the 2 middle pillars supporting the temple and said, "Let me die with the Philistines." Samson pushed with all his might, and the temple fell on the lords of the Philistines and all the people in it. He killed more people in his death than he had killed during his life. Then his brothers and his father's household came and took his body and buried it in the tomb of his father Manoah. He had judged Israel for 20 years.